The Department of Veterinary Public Health and Epidemiology was created in 1984 and reorganized as per VCI guidelines in 1998. The department is engaged in UG and PG teaching in the discipline of Veterinary Public Health as per the course curriculum of the Veterinary Council of India. The postgraduate teaching involves teaching of MVSc and PhD students majoring in Veterinary Public Health and Epidemiology. The department has well-established zoonosis laboratory wherein the department is working on bacterial and parasitic zoonoses and has conducted studies on the molecular diagnostics of emerging zoonosis, human brucellosis, cysticercosis and other zoonotic diseases. The department is also engaged in research on molecular aspects including molecular diagnostics of foodborne pathogens including bacteria, viruses and parasites. Moreover, routine testing of food samples and water for its potability is also undertaken by the department. The department also has a residue analysis laboratory especially for pesticides, heavy and toxic metals, and antibiotic residues and has undertaken studies in various foods of animal origin such as milk, milk products, meat products, feed, human milk, adipose tissues and honey, etc. Presently, the Department of Veterinary Public Health and Epidemiology is a unit of the recently created Center for One Health. The main mandates of the center include promotion of One Health initiative for greater cooperation among multiple disciplines to ensure optimal health for human, animal and environment, surveillance and tracking of antimicrobial resistance emergence in animal production sector for the possible control and mitigation strategies, ensuring food safety and food quality control through production of hygienic milk, meat and their products, database of pesticide, heavy and toxic metals and veterinary drug residues in foods to develop strategies for quality food production, surveillance of important zoonotic infections and animal and human health economics for the endemic zoonosis prevailing in Punjab, and lastly, community awareness on biosecurity measures for prevention and control of important zoonotic diseases in Punjab. So in this video, we have tried to cover topics related to zoonotic diseases, food safety, environmental hygiene and residue analysis. I hope the students will be benefited from these practical videos.
Experiment on microbial examination of milk by standard plate count method. The principle is as follows. Standard plate count is performed to determine the viable or living organisms in the sample. Here the sample is milk. The plates are incubated for definite period of time and bacterial colonies are then counted. Each colony is presumed to have grown from one bacterium present in the sample. The material required are sterilized Petri plates, pipettes, milk sample, nutrient agar. Media should be sterilized at 15 lbs for 15 minutes in an autoclave in round bottom flask. Diluent, which is buffered peptone water, and autoclave test tubes and incubator. The procedure is as follows. Take 5 sterilized tubes in rack and add 9 ml of buffered peptone water to each test tube, mixing the sample and preparation of dilutions. Add 1 ml of milk sample with sterile pipette tip to the first test tube containing diluent, thus making it 1:10 dilution. Similarly, add 1 ml of the diluted sample from first tube to the next tube containing 9 ml of the diluent, thus making 1:100 dilution in the next tube. Similarly, Proceed until the final dilution. Discard 1 ml of the diluted sample from the last dilution to keep the volume 10 ml. The next step is preparation and incubation of the plates. Using a fresh pipette, transfer 100 microliter of each dilution into sterile petri dishes in duplicate. Spread the diluted sample over the plate using sterile L-shaped spreader. Allow the sample to dry on the plate and invert the plates before keeping them in incubator. Keep the plates in incubator at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 to 48 hours. The third step involves counting the colonies. Firstly, remove the plates from incubator and select the pair of plates, preferably containing 30 to 300 colonies on each plate. Count the colonies with the aid of colony counter. Determine the average number of colonies on 2 duplicate plates and multiply with dilution factor. Express the results of standard plate count as colony forming units per ml of milk. The calculation would be as follows. CFU per ml is equal to the number of average colonies on duplicate plates into reciprocal of dilution factor into factor of 10. Here at dilution 1 is to 10,000, average number of visible colonies is equal to 40. So the calculation is as follows.
Microbial analysis and grading of milk by methylene blue reduction test. The methylene blue reduction test, or known as MBRT, is based on the principle that when a small quantity of the methylene blue dye is added to the milk sample and the mixture is incubated at 37 degrees centigrades, the dye is reduced and changes its color through the metabolic activity of the microorganisms present in the milk. The greater the number of microorganisms, the greater their activity and more rapidly the dye is reduced. So during the incubation period, the bacteria start to grow and consume oxygen dissolved in the milk sample, which in turn lowers the oxidation reduction potential in the mixture. The time taken for the reduction of the dye is influenced by the number and the types of bacteria growing in the sample. Thus, this test gives us an indication of the bacterial number and their activity in the milk sample. The test is therefore used for judging the hygienic quality of milk and grading the raw milk samples, for assessing the probable quality of the milk, and for detection of post-pasteurization contamination of the milk sample. The materials required are sterile test tubes, sterile rubber corks to fit into the test tubes, the pipettes of 10 ml and 1 ml capacity, beakers, flasks, the milk sample itself, and the standard methylene blue solution. Procedure: thoroughly mix the given samples of milk. Transfer 10 ml of milk sample into a test tube under aseptic conditions. Add 1 ml of the methylene blue solution to the milk in the test tubes and replace with sterile rubber corks. While transferring the methylene blue solution, care should be taken not to contaminate the pipette by touching the milk sample. Put up the following two control tubes with each batch. First control, consisting of 10 ml of mixed milk and 1 ml methylene blue solution. Mix the dye and the milk sample by properly inverting the tubes. And the second control tube consisting of 10 ml of mixed milk and 1 ml of tap water. Again fit these tubes with the rubber corks and immerse for 3 minutes in the boiling water in order to reduce the natural reducing system present in the milk. So comparison of the experimental tube with the first control tube will show when the decolorization begins, and comparison with the second control tube will indicate when the decolorization is complete. Place the tubes in the water bath. Observe the tubes after every 30 minutes, and if there is no sign of reduction, that is decolorization, the tubes are inverted once and returned to the water bath. Continue the observation of the tubes until complete reduction of the dye, that is full decolorization occurs, or till the formation of a persistent blue ring at the top. End point. The methylene blue reduction time is the interval between the placing of the tubes at 37 degrees centigrade in water bath or incubator immediately after their inversion and the nearby complete disappearance of the blue color from the milk. It is preferable to consider reduction complete when 4/5 of the visible portion of the contents of the tube have turned white in color. Interpretations. So the following standards of methylene blue reduction time are suggested as a guide for grading the raw milk supplies. So if the methylene blue reduction time in hours is 5 hours and above, the milk is graded as very good in quality. If the time of reduction is in between 3 and 4 hours, it is of good quality. If the time is between 1 hour and 2 hours, the milk will be of fair quality, and if the methylene blue reduction time is less than half an hour, the milk is poor in quality. Thus, the length of time taken by milk to decolorize methylene blue is a fairly good measure of its bacterial content and hence of its sanitary and keeping quality. Detection of milk adulterants. Milk is an important constituent of diet in India, especially for children. It's a complete health drink comprising of protein, fats, vitamins and minerals. However, the increased rate of milk adulteration has been a matter of concern, posing health hazards, thus masking its advantages. Despite the checks on purity, adulteration continues to be on a rising trend. So, the monitoring of adulterants in milk is highly important. The adulteration can be unintentional or intentional. Unintentional adulteration is mainly due to lack of hygienic practices in the production and the supply chain. However, sometimes foreign substances or the adulterants are intentionally added in the milk, primarily to decrease the cost of production and thus increase the profit. The common adulterants in the milk are formalin, glucose, sugar, hydrogen peroxide, detergent, sodium chloride, urea, pond water, neutralizers, starch, and skim milk powder. The procedure for detection of these common adulterants. Urea. So for the detection of urea, in a test tube take 2 ml of milk sample to which add 1 ml of para-dimethyl aminobenzaldehyde and observe the color change. Observation. Absence of urea is indicated by off-white to slight yellow color, while the development of yellow color indicates presence of urea in the milk sample. Detergent. In a test tube, take 2 ml of milk sample to which we add 2 drops of the reagent bromocresol purple solution. Observations. Absence of detergent is indicated by a grayish blue color, while the presence of detergent is indicated by the development of blue color. Sugar. In a test tube, take 2 ml of milk sample to which we add 1 ml of hydrochloric acid and 1 spoonful of resorcinol powder. Boil it for 1 minute. Observations. Absence of sugar is indicated by pale yellow color, while presence of sugar is indicated by the development of brick red color. Glucose. In a test tube, take 1 ml of milk sample to which add 1 ml of reagent Barfoed's reagent and 1 ml of phosphomolybdic acid. Boil them in a water bath for 5 minutes and cool them. Observations. Production of a light green color indicates the absence of glucose, while a bluish green color indicates the presence of glucose in the test sample. Hydrogen peroxide. In a test tube, add 5 ml of milk sample and then add 1 small spoonful of 0.3 grams of paraphenylene diamine. Wait for 5 minutes. Observations. Absence of hydrogen peroxide is indicated by light grey color, while the presence is indicated by formation of dark bluish grey color. Starch. In a test tube, take 2 ml of milk sample, boil it and then cool it. Add 5 drops of 1% iodine solution. Observation. Absence of starch is indicated by off-white to cream color, while presence of starch indicated by development of blue color. Skim milk powder. In a test tube, add 2 ml of milk sample and 1 ml of nitric acid and 1 ml of a reagent SKM2. Mix it well and then heat it in water bath at boiling temperature for 15 minutes. Observations. Absence of skim milk powder is indicated by green color, while the presence is indicated by blue color. Neutralizers. In a test tube, take 1 ml of milk sample and add 1 ml of reagent alcohol and 3 drops of rosalic acid. Observations. Absence of neutralizer is depicted by light orange color, while presence of neutralizer is shown by a reddish pink color. Sodium chloride. In a test tube, take 1 ml of milk sample and add 1 ml of reagent, that is 0.8% silver nitrate and 3 drops of 1% potassium dichromate. Observations. Formation of brick red color indicates absence of sodium chloride, while formation of yellow color indicates presence of sodium chloride. Pond water. In a test tube, take 2 ml of milk sample and add 1 small spoon of the reagent PW1 and 6 drops of reagent PW2. Mix well. Add 1 small spoonful of reagent PW3. These reagents are available from High Media. Mix them, wait for 5 minutes. The absence of pond water is indicated by white to off-white color, while the presence is indicated by pink magenta color.
Experiment on isolation of foodborne pathogens. Microorganisms are the primary cause of food spoilage and foodborne illness. Foodborne diseases result in considerable morbidity, mortality, and economic costs. Contamination of milk and meat may result from diseased animals or due to contamination during processing and handling in the unhygienic environment. The basic procedure for the isolation of foodborne pathogens consists of 2 steps. The first one is enrichment. This is the first step of isolation, in which the samples are enriched in general purpose media to harvest as many different types of microbes as are present in the sample. Enrichment of the sample is carried out in enrichment media containing the nutrients required to support the growth of a wide variety of organisms, including some of the more fastidious ones. Some of the common enrichment media used are brain heart infusion broth or tryptic soy broth with 10% sodium chloride and 1% sodium pyruvate for the isolation of Staphylococcus aureus, brain heart infusion broth or nutrient broth for Escherichia coli, University of Vermont broth or UVM1 and UVM2 for Listeria monocytogenes. The next step is selective plating. The organisms are harvested from the enriched media by selective plating on selective media, such as Baird-Parker agar for Staphylococcus aureus, eosin methylene blue agar for Escherichia coli, and Listeria identification agar, also known as polymyxin, acriflavin, lithium chloride, ceftazidimine, esculin mannitol, or Pelcam agar for Listeria monocytogenes. In this practical, we are demonstrating the isolation of various foodborne pathogens such as Staphylococcus aureus, Escherichia coli, and Listeria monocytogenes from milk samples. The procedure is as follows. In a sterile environment in presence of flame, we inoculate 1 ml of milk samples onto sterile enrichment media such as brain heart infusion broth for enrichment of milk sample for the isolation of Staphylococcus aureus and Escherichia coli, and University of Vermont broth for Listeria monocytogenes. The samples are inoculated onto enrichment media at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 hours in the incubator. After 24 hours of incubation, a loop full of inoculum is streaked onto agar plates of selective media. During streaking, we first prepare a culture well and streak primary, secondary, and tertiary streaks to obtain pure isolated colonies. We streak loop full of inoculum from BHI broth onto Baird-Parker agar for Staphylococcus aureus and eosin methylene blue agar for Escherichia coli, and Pelcam agar for Listeria monocytogenes. The samples are incubated at 37 degrees for 24 hours. After 24 hours of incubation, the characteristic shiny jet black colonies with zone of precipitation or halo around the colony on Baird-Parker agar are suggestive of Staphylococcus aureus. Typical colonies with greenish metallic sheen on EMB agar is suggestive of Escherichia coli, and on Pelcam agar, Listeria species show grey-greenish or yellowish colored 1.5 to 2 mm diameter colonies with black halo. Identification of the organism is done by gram staining and biochemical tests. Staphylococcus aureus are gram positive, cocci occurring singly, pairs, or in clusters. E. coli are gram negative, rod shaped, non sporulating bacteria, and Listeria monocytogenes are gram positive, non spore forming, rod shaped flagellates. Experiment on Rose Bengal plate test antigen. RBPT is an 8% suspension of pure, smooth, kill cells of Brucella abortus strain 99, phenolized and stained with Rose Bengal dye. It is buffered at pH 3.65 using lactic acid buffer. The RBPT antigen is used for screening of Brucella infection in man and animals. The requirements for the test are as follows: RBPT antigen, micropipette, glass plate, and toothpick for spreading. The procedure: remove the antigen stored at 4 degrees from refrigerator, shake the antigen and leave at room temperature for half an hour. With micropipette, place 1 drop of antigen on center of the plate. place one drop, that is 0.03 ml of serum, along with side of the antigen. With a spreader, mix the antigen and serum thoroughly, which is spread to an area of about 2.5 cm diameter. Rotate the plate for 4 minutes. The observation of the tests are: read the test by examining for agglutination in good light. Interpretation: the test is read as positive, any degree of agglutination, or negative if there is no agglutination. Experiment on serum tube agglutination test or STAT. Brucella STAT antigen is a suspension of a pure, smooth culture of Brucella abortus strain 99 in phenolsaline. The antigen is used for diagnosis of brucellosis in man and animals. The requirements for the test are as follows: standardized serum tube agglutination antigen. The label on the antigen bottle should contain information supplied by the manufacturer on the 50% agglutination titer obtained when the antigen is tested with international standard serum or its national counterpart. Serum, phenolsaline, sugar tubes or Wassermann tubes without any line mark, rack for holding the tubes, micropipettes of up to 1 ml capacity. The procedure for the test is as follows. Firstly, plate 5 sugar tubes or Wassermann tubes in a rack. Put 0.8 ml of phenolsaline in the first tube and 0.5 ml on all other tubes. Then add 0.2 ml of serum to the first tube. Mix well and transfer 0.5 ml to the second tube. Mix thoroughly and transfer 0.5 ml to the third tube. Continue this process up to the fourth tube and discard 0.5 ml from the last tube after mixing. Add 0.5 ml of the standardized Brucella STAT antigen to each tube. Mix by rolling in between palms. And incubate at 37 degrees for 20 hours plus minus 1 hour. The observation for the test would be as follows. Results of the agglutination should be noted after keeping tubes for half an hour on the bench at room temperature. Examine all the incubated tube against light. Note the degree of agglutination for each sample of serum. To express in unit system, double of the serum titer showing 50% agglutination will be the total number of international units per ml of serum. The interpretation would be as follows. 80 international units per ml or above should be considered positive for brucellosis in human beings, unvaccinated cattle or buffaloes, and 40 international units or above to be considered as positive for sheep and goats.
Detection of foodborne and zoonotic pathogens by polymerase chain reaction. So what is PCR? PCR or polymerase chain reaction is an efficient, rapid molecular biology technique formulated by Kary Mullis in 1985 to make multiple copies of a specific region of DNA. This technique is used to amplify specific target DNA fragments from low quantities of source DNA. The strands synthesized in one PCR cycle serve as a template in the next cycle, A million-fold increase in the amount of DNA is then achieved in just 20 to 30 cycles. These cycles can be performed automatically using an instrument called as thermal cycler. Once the DNA has been sufficiently amplified, the resulting product can then be sequenced, analyzed by gel electrophoresis or cloned into a plasmid for experimental purposes. How does PCR work? The PCR reaction consists of target DNA, a set of synthetic oligonucleotide primers that flank the target DNA sequence, a thermostable DNA polymerase, usually Taq polymerase, and nucleotides. Primers are single strands of nucleic acids, that is, the synthetic oligonucleotides that are necessary to initiate the PCR reaction. These single strands of DNA are very specific and complementary to the target DNA sequence portion. During the annealing phase of PCR, the primer binds to the target and initiates copying of the target DNA and RNA sequence. The primers are used in pairs, known as forward and reverse primers. Taq DNA polymerase is a specialized thermostable enzyme isolated from Thermus aquaticus, a thermophilic bacterium. It is the most commonly used DNA polymerase for PCR. Steps in PCR. The 3 steps to each amplification cycle include denaturation, annealing, and extension. Denaturation. Firstly, the DNA is denatured by heating to 90 to 95 degrees centigrades, which separates the double-stranded DNA to a single-stranded DNA. The temperature at which 50% of the double-stranded DNA is denatured is known as the melting temperature and is determined by the GC content, the length of the sample, and the concentration of the ions, primarily the magnesium ions. Annealing. During the annealing step, the sample is cooled to 40 to 60 degrees centigrades, thereby allowing the primers to attach to the target DNA. Extension. The final PCR step occurs at 70 to 75 degrees centigrades and is known as extension. During this stage, the DNA polymerase extends the DNA from the primers, creating new double-stranded DNA with one old strand and one new strand. Now coming to the PCR protocol. The materials required for the PCR include master mix, which consists of Taq DNA polymerase, 10x PCR buffer, 25 millimolar MgCl2, the deoxynucleotide mix, which contains 10 millimolar each of the different DNTPs, the oligo primers, which include the forward and reverse primers typically of 15 to 30 bases in length, the DNA to be amplified, the nuclease-free water, dedicated pipettes, the thermal cycler, the sterile filter pipette tips, and the PCR tubes. Now, a polymerase chain reaction setup consists of the following steps. So, in the first step, we add required reagents or the master mix, the forward and the reverse primers, and the template to the PCR tubes as per the reaction protocol. Here, we are performing PCR with 25 microliter reaction setup for 4 samples to test, that is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a positive control, that is P, with the known template, and a negative control, that is N, without the template. So in this PCR, we are demonstrating the forward and reverse primers of the ACT-A gene for the detection of Listeria monocytogenes in the target samples. We add the master mix, the primers, and the nuclease-free water as per the reaction protocol to the reaction mix tube. So the reaction mix is dispensed equally to each PCR tube, that is around 25 microliters. The respective DNA of the samples are then added separately to the corresponding PCR tubes, 5 microliter each, and the known positive DNA is added to the positive control P tube, which is again 5 microliter, and 5 microliter nuclease-free water is added to the negative control tube, that is N. All their contents are then mixed gently and then they are spun. amplify them as per the thermal cycler and the primer parameters. And the next step after amplification is to evaluate the amplified DNA by agarose gel electrophoresis followed by ethidium bromide staining. Now the reagents for nucleic acid electrophoresis include agarose, buffer which can be the tris acetate EDTA buffer or the tris borate EDTA buffer, 100 base pair leader, the electrophoresis stain or dye such as ethidium bromide, the gel casting tray and the combs, and the electrophoresis apparatus. A 1% gel is made using agarose and the TBE buffer. To this, the electrophoresis stain or dye, that is ethidium bromide, is added and it is poured onto a gel casting tray in which the combs are placed. After solidification of the agarose, the amplified PCR products are run along with a suitable leader for around 30 to 40 minutes. And the gel is then interpreted in the gel dock instrument.
HPLC analysis of aflatoxin M1. Materials required: filtration assembly, HPLC glass vials, 0.5 micrometer membrane filters, ultrasonic cleaner, immunoaffinity columns, vacuum pump, mobile phase, in this case it is water and acetonitrile, methanol as solvent, HPLC grade water, 0.5 micrometer syringe filters, aflatoxin M1 standard, milk sample to be analyzed, HPLC system. Here we are using Agilent 1260 Infinity HPLC system, which consists of opened Labus Chrome software, sampler, quaternary pump, fluorescent detector, and a stationary phase, which is a column compound. Procedure: before analysis, all the solvents used in the analysis are filtered through 0.45 micrometer filter paper and the mobile phase is degassed using an ultrasonic cleaner. Sample extraction and cleanup: place the immunoaffinity column on vacuum, take 50 ml of defattened milk sample and pass it through activated immunoaffinity column at the flow rate of 1 to 3 ml per minute until the air comes out through the column. Then the column is rinsed with 20 ml of distilled water to remove impurities and is dried by applying vacuum. After this step, 100% HPLC grade methanol is used to elute aflatoxin M1 from the immunoaffinity column. Approximately 1.5 to 3 ml methanol is allowed to pass through the column at the flow rate of 1 drop per second in a clean glass beaker. The elute is evaporated to near dryness and is reconstituted with 1 ml of mobile phase. Finally, the reconstituted elute is filtered through 0.22 micrometer syringe filter and is stored in amber colored HPLC glass vials for further analysis. Coming to HPLC analysis, the pipes were dipped into the mobile phase and the standard and samples are placed in the sampler of the system. Open HPLC fluorescent detector online. Open the valve of the quaternary pump in anti-clockwise direction. Allow each solvent to purge. After purging, close the valve of the pump in clockwise direction. After this step, washing and conditioning of the column compound or the stationary phase is done using the mobile phase. In this case, water and acetonitrile is a mobile phase. Method and sequence is created for the analysis. Before starting the run, turn on the sampler, column compound and the FLD detector with quaternary pump at standby position. Set the result path and perform the sequence run according to the sequence created for the analysis. Observation of results. After completion of the run, open HPLC fluorescent detector offline to view the results. The analyte of interest can be detected and can be quantified by comparing the retention time of the sample with the retention time and peak area of the standard.
Analysis of the quality of water by the most probable number or the MPN method. The most probable number or the MPN analysis is a statistical method based on the random dispersion of microorganisms per volume in a given sample. It is a quantitative method capable of enumerating viable organisms and can be readily used for determining the water potability. The reagents used include 25 ml test tubes containing McConkey purple broth and inverted Durham's tube, the glass pipette or the measuring cylinders of 10 ml capacity which should be autoclaved, the water sample for testing and an incubator. The procedure. So we start by preparing McConkey purple media of single and double strength in test tubes with Durham's tube and autoclave it. Take 3 sets of test tubes containing 5 tubes in each set. 1 set with 10 ml of double strength and 2 sets containing 10 ml of single strength. Using the sterile pipettes, transfer 10 ml of water to each of the double strength broth tubes. Transfer 1 ml of water sample to each of the 5 tubes of 1 set of single strength broth. And transfer 0.1 ml water to 5 tubes of the remaining last set of the single strength broth tubes. Now incubate the tubes at 37 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. After incubation of 24 hours, Observe the production of gas inside the Dhurham's tube and the change of the color of the media. Record the number of positive results from each set used and compare with the standard chart, which is called the McCready's table, to give the presumptive coliform count per 100 ml of the water sample. So the results of the most probable number are calculated by seeing the positive and the negative tubes. In the positive tubes, we record the formation of 10% gas or more in the Dhurham's tube within 24 to 48 hours, along with turbidity in the growth medium, and the color change in the medium constitutes a positive presumptive test for the coliform bacteria and hence the possibility of fecal pollution. This test is presumptive only because under these conditions, several other types of bacteria can produce similar results. Estimation of residual chlorine in the water sample. Chlorination of water is a method of chemical sterilization or disinfection of water. Chemical sterilization is a method of killing microorganisms present in water by using chemicals. This is an effective, cheap, reliable method practiced during large-scale purification of water. Bleaching powder or chlorinated lime is mainly used for this purpose. When chlorine is added to the water, there is formation of hypochloric acid and hypochlorous acids. The disinfecting action of chlorine is mainly due to hypochlorous acids and to a small extent due to hypochlorite ions. So the total chlorine in water is a sum of demand chlorine and residual chlorine. Demand chlorine is the amount of chlorine that is needed to destroy bacteria and to oxidize all the organic matter and the ammoniacal substances present in the water, while the residual chlorine is the amount of chlorine left after the chlorine demand of the water is met. Its presence indicates that the water has been purified effectively. The minimum recommended concentration of free chlorine is 0.5 mg per liter for 1 hour. So the procedure for estimation of residual chlorine in the given water sample is carried out by using the orthotoluidine method. Procedure. The AquaCheck test jar is filled with water sample up to the 10 ml mark. Five drops of the orthotoluidine agent is added and then shaken well. The mixture is allowed to stand for 15 to 20 minutes to develop light yellow to deep yellow with orange tint color. The color is then matched and we read the results as mg per liter or ppm of free chlorine from the color chart. So in the observations, we observe the change in the color of the solution. If the solution turns yellow, it indicates the presence of free chlorine in water. If there is no yellow color development, that indicates that the free chlorine is absent in water. Estimation of hardness of water in the given sample. Water hardness is a measure of the capacity of water to react with soap. Hard water requires considerably more soap to produce lather. Hardness is contributed by a variety of polyvalent metallic ions, mainly the carbonates and sulfates of calcium and magnesium. The polyvalent metallic ions are contributed by rocks and seepage or runoff from the soil. The sources of calcium and magnesium are sedimentary rocks, limestone and chalk. Other salts of iron, manganese, zinc, etc. may also contribute to the hardness. The temporary hardness or the carbonate hardness of water is due to calcium or magnesium carbonates and bicarbonates, while the permanent or the non-carbonate hardness is due to calcium or magnesium sulfates, chlorides or nitrates. The hardness is most commonly expressed as milliequivalents per liter. So 1 milliequivalent per liter is equal to 50 mg calcium carbonate or 50 ppm in 1 liter of water. So the water can be classified as soft water with a value of less than 1 milliequivalents per liter, moderately hard with a value of 1 to 3 milliequivalents per liter, hard water with a value of 3 to 6 milliequivalents per liter, and very hard water with a value of more than 6 milliequivalents per liter of the hardness. So the total hardness is the sum of temporary hardness and permanent hardness. It can be determined by the process described ahead. So the materials required include burette, conical flask, pipette, EDTA solution, distilled water, ammonia buffer, and Erichrome indicator, which is made by adding 1 gram of the Erichrome in 1000 ml of absolute alcohol. Procedure: EDTA solution is taken in a burette. 50 ml of water sample is taken in a conical flask and 2 to 3 ml of ammonia buffer is added to it. To that, 1 to 2 drops of Erichrome indicator is added. The mixture in the conical flask is titrated against EDTA present in the burette. The end point is the appearance of blue color. So, the calculation can be done as follows. So, the total hardness of water equals to the volume of EDTA consumed divided by the amount of water used into 1000. So, the volume of EDTA consumed can be calculated by noting down the initial and the final burette reading of the EDTA solution. So the results are expressed as mg per liter of calcium carbonate, or the total hardness is expressed in terms of ppm of calcium carbonate. To watch more educational videos on veterinary and animal sciences, subscribe the channel and please touch the bell icon. Guru Angad Dev Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, Ludhiana on YouTube.